Let's see. Here we go. Alright. I have some time lined up nicely, so I can stream now. Usually, time lines up well at around 2 o'clock in the morning. So, this is a little different. That's such a dark red. I don't really like that, but this is a little bit better. Let's see. Anyway, it's interesting. Yesterday, I made a video you're not going to see for a while because I have a lot of other videos to post before that one. But it was an extension on my cerebral palsy and showering video where I actually demonstrated the 2 handheld bars that I have, saying that if you need it, you could place a third on the wall. And I showed how I placed my hand on the wall and I put a lot of trust in that hand to do a transition weight shift to get to the countertop. And you would think if you were going to fall anywhere, you would fall doing that. But yesterday, I fell just getting in my computer chair. It rolled away from me. And I fell. Hurt my foot and toe and back a little bit. We'll see how that goes. But ooh, I don't like that color. It's got to be way darker than that. It's always the unexpected that gets you. It's the same thought process with swimming in the ocean. It was funny. Everyone in Florida, essentially, scared of the ocean. It's quite annoying. They're always afraid of sharks because they don't understand statistics. And they don't understand what a one-off that is. Shark attack, really. It's the same with immigrants and crime statistics. People don't understand what a one-off or murder is. But anyway, it turned out that with enough chafing of the wrong bathing suit, I ended up getting an infection top of my leg. So it's always the unexpected that gets you. That's just like a rule of life. All these tabs that I keep open, all these tabs, previous search search queries. It's good to do something like that because You can kind of track your thoughts like that. It seems like my internet not that great right now. Well, that's okay. We'll keep going. I don't really care how many people watch the stream. I don't really do this to chase numbers. If you're doing YouTube, to chase numbers, you're gonna be really disappointed. I just calculated it out today. I calculate it probably twice a week or so. It's what I'll call my YouTube failure rate. Right? So, in my mind, a YouTube failure rate can be calculated like this. You take your total number your total number of views and divide by your total number of impressions. And then times, okay, that's going to give you one number. And then take that number so this is all one entity. And then stick a 100 in front of that and say minus. So that's your equation right there. That's your failure rate. Unless, hang on one second. Did I explain that the way I wanted to? Let's see. Yes, I did. It's always good to go slow. Because it cuts down on errors. So just bear with me. The worst thing a teacher could do just give false information. Okay, so that is right. That's what I wanted to say. I remember in, I believe, ninth grade freshman year, there was one social studies teacher who did her job pretty well. She taught information and then would look over everybody's homework in some detail. And I remember one time she stated something incorrectly, like something factually wrong, and she immediately caught it and reversed herself. But you could tell just in her tone of voice how disappointed she was in herself just for getting that one thing wrong, because she realized, I think properly, that it was possible that that wrong information would stick in people's heads, and then once you get that in your head that that's the right way, it's kind of hard to reverse course, especially if you're a kid. So it's always nice to take your time and get it right. If there's one thing that's lacking in the society and could be changed, so that people don't take the time to get stuff right anymore. Of course, engineers do, but there's a reason that you have so many companies doing recalls now, and you have Boeing in huge trouble now. I don't know what they're gonna do. Oops. I don't know, it's just it's an interesting time. It really is. Still, my internet is not working that well, apparently. Well, it's too bad. We're gonna keep going. Usually what happens is you go long enough and tends to work itself out. So that's what we're gonna go with. So Boeing is buying back its manufacturing plant. I don't think that's gonna fix their issues. I think their issues seem to be issues of broadly quality assurance and quality control, but that's hard to fix. That's just I just have kind of like a meticulous problem right now. And you can't have a problem with attention to detail and work in the manufacturing space. Doesn't work. Could you imagine if doctors just lacked attention to detail? Like, I understand accidents happen, but when accidents happen like that, there's massive lawsuits that take place, so that's not a common occurrence. It's kind of like not all recalls are the same either in my book. Some are way, way worse than others. Like, you can have auto recall. Ooh, that's not gonna work. It needs to be a different color. Auto recalls are pretty bad. However, worse than that are baby food recalls. This is what people don't understand about health. They think you got a broken toe or something like that and it's all fixable. You get a heart attack and they can put a what I'll term a dumb stint, meaning all they do is push the problem off to the side. But when you are unfortunate enough to get anywhere near the realm of, I'll write this in a different thing so people don't think that it's the same. When you're in this realm, you're screwed. There is no way to come back from this. I know you can have your stroke treatment, but again, show me a sizable population of average stroke victims who go back to regular life, meaning pre-stroke. Doesn't really happen. So, in my book, anything that most directly affects people's health in terms of increasing or decreasing the likelihood of possible brain damage effects that are permanent, that's always going to outweigh everything else. Let's see. See if it's still set. Oh, okay. It's a little bit better now. Okay, good. Let's carry this along. There you go. I think people have a false perception. And I don't know if it's just a United States thing or a global thing, but because I live in the United States, I can only speak on the United States. Alright. People think the only severe neurological problem are in one of two categories. You have one, a tumor, or two, dementia, which people casually talk about wrongly. Whenever you get the stroke, it's almost as if people just have nothing more to say about it, nothing interesting to say about it. It's just like those people just go in a dark space and they no longer exist. I guess the one positive about dementia is that it is talked about by people, even though most of the discussion is wrong. At least it's talked about. I feel like stroke victims or things that are closely related to stroke aren't talked about. I feel like the most that you're going to get for that. So this was also interesting. This touches on some things. I was arguing with some person on Reddit who was just wrong and lost a lot of credit points because he was wrong, and a lot of people agreed that he was wrong. Okay? People kind of get, I guess, the wrong impression. Right? So you can have a spinal cord injury. But then you can have a brain problem. I think people lump these two together and say, oh, well, Elon Musk is helping paraplegics and quadriplegics, so we're making such great progress in that realm, and that's cool. But that does nothing for the person with a brain problem. It's not the same thing. I think it's easier to fix the spinal cord injury than it is to fix someone with actual brain cell death. I don't know. I feel like people have the wrong mental picture on some very important things. And I don't know where it comes from, but it's unfortunate. Really, it really, really is. At the end of the day, you can have all the facts on your side, but people choose which mental models they I have some overlap there. They use, and that's it. That's the end game. Getting into people's mental models, then you haven't done anything. That's why teachers struggle so much, because a lot of kids don't take the time to develop mental models. The key to learning, of course, you have writing and reading, and I assume some math skills. But ultimately, you have to use all of that to try to develop a mental model. And if you're too lazy to actually try to do that, then you're going to come up with a lot of wrong stuff and be kind of useless. It was interesting. I saw, I think it was a short clip of some union worker who said he loves Trump, is going to vote for Trump, voted for Trump in the past, and then some reporter showed him Trump's praise of right to work legislation and how you need to have right to work. And this guy, being a union worker, was like, oh, I can't have that, I guess, because I'm a one issue voter. I need to switch my vote now. That was only possible because that one guy didn't take the time to develop any mental model. You can be given information. You need to internalize it. I guess that's what it comes down to. You need to internalize the information given to you. Some people will do that, others won't. It's probably why if you think of let's see, I need space. If you think of blue collar workers, it doesn't seem like they don't internalize written word. But they do internalize schema. It's just different ways the brain works. So they'll be better or they'll be good at mechanical workings, but for whatever reason, they don't internalize written dialogue. And also goes the other way around. White collar workers will easily internalize written word, but for whatever reason, they won't internalize a schematic drawing and actually put it into practice. I don't know. It's a flaw of the human mind that you can't do both. It's also a flaw, though. This is another misconception. This is wrong. You hear this all the time. This is nonsense. Multitasking is not bad. Some people are better at it than others. And yes, you could argue it diverts attention away from certain things. But also, if you really stop and think about it, you can have a situation like this. You have over attention, which is a bad thing. It's almost like Laser focus is good in short bursts, but don't think you're gonna laser focus studying and learn anything, because you're not. So that's pretty nice. Coloring's a little dark, but still nice. I knew people that would laser focus, but I think what they failed to understand was the length of time they were actually doing that was shorter than they thought. Like, they weren't working as long as they would perceive they were. If you put a clock next to them, the time they thought they were working would be longer than what they actually did. To have short periods of productive work is better than long hours of sluggishness. Perhaps I'll just write this. I gotta find space. Maybe the what do you call them? Assembly text at Boeing are overworked. Solution to solution to company problem. Work less. I don't know, it seems to be a pretty easy thing. It seems like Europe is more readily accepting of that with their experimental 4-day work weeks. But here we have this grind mindset, which is hard to argue against. crimes of America. Considering A, we don't have that many people. We don't have many people. And 2, so B, we have top GDP. It's a little bit crazy to me that China outnumbers us by so much, and yet they can barely match our GDP, and people are freaking out. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. Like, China is weaker than Americans understand. Much like Russia. I think for some reason, I don't know why this happens, but Americans overestimate other countries. You can see this if you look at anything like inflation, which people say they care so much about now. And then you bring up the United States' actual position within the global sphere. And you say, oh, well, the United States is actually doing really, really well. It's ranked over here. And when you look at the majority of countries in the world, they're actually doing worse than the United States. So that perception that people initially had is just kind of an overreaction to other countries. It's just it's a false again mental model. I can even tell just based on this first sheet of notes, considering that I didn't know I was going to talk about any of this, because that's how I do these, that, let's see how long this stream has been going on. That the first 44 minutes of the stream, 45 minutes, has been very productive. If you were to speak honestly about the some other streams, they might be fun and educational, but not all of them are of the same quality, the same speed, and the same I guess delivery and productivity, they're not all the same. This one is pretty good if you take the first 45 minutes. The trick is don't stream all day, and maybe don't even stream every day. Only stream when you want to. That's kind of, again, the problem with modern society anyway. Let's go with a rose-colored background. I like rose a lot. Rose colors is really nice. And then indigo. I guess that's indigo. Whatever. Okay, so here's a problem with modern society globally. That's a nice combo. Modern global society, being as industrial as it is, forces people to work constantly to keep up with modern high standards of living. I think that's pretty fair. I think that's a pretty fair assessment. However, the problem with this, from a psychological perspective, is that people aren't productive working that long. There are spillover effects. I would argue that things like Instagram and Twitter or X don't make people depressed on any large scale. What makes people depressed is largely what people call the rat race. It's working way too long to keep up some high standard of living which society has never had before. And eventually, when you do that, you just break down. It's almost like high standard of living is incomplete. It's not comprehensive enough. I could see arguments where if you were to limit your definition of high standard of living, then you could say it's never been higher. People have never been better off. Globally, there's never been that much money, and people are living longer and just generally doing better. However, if you actually had a comprehensive assessment or understanding of what high standard of living was, you might be able to make the case that we're not actually moving forward. Maybe we're in a position where we're not moving backward or forward, but we're not moving forward. I don't know. I just think it's incomplete. Much like this is incomplete, telling me that the average view duration was 2 seconds a while ago, and now magically the same viewership has an average view duration that's 10 seconds higher than that. Interesting. YouTube is trying to give me a false mental model. Anyway. I'm just waiting for it to be an hour. It's not quite an hour yet. Because I take thyroid medication for Hashimoto's disease. I'll look that up so I don't spell it completely wrong. There you go. I could write this too. But I'm going to copy and paste it because it's easier to do it that way. Go with a different color. What color do we want? Yellow. Ooh. You gotta be darker than that. Yeah, I gotta make that darker. Anyway. Hashimoto disease. It's a thyroid problem. So you take essentially medication which acts as a hormone replacement. And that would be, let's look this up too so I don't get this wrong. Whenever you're talking about anything that's really important, make sure you get it right. There you go. So, Hashimoto's disease, you take a hormone, essentially replacement regimen, and you take this pill, and they always change the recommendation. It's always like a moving target, but they say that this is what I go by. They say something like after taking medication, wait 1 hour to eat. Now keep in mind that you're supposed to take Synthroid essentially on an empty stomach. So that means you don't eat 1 hour before you take the pill. So if you're not eating 1 hour before you take the pill and you're not eating 1 hour after, that's only 2 hours. But there are some days where you wish you didn't have to wait that long. So that's a 2 hour. I like this. People don't use this, but I like this. It's because people they're not science trained and they don't have to use it really. So they don't. But science terms. This is very, very, very quick, okay? Hour is H. Okay? That's what it is. That's just a thing that bothers me. Also, I'm not sure if this is a science term. Oops. Deaccelerate. I'm not sure if that's actually a science term or let me see. I think it's probably that one. Or is the science term just this? I don't know. I guess we'll look it up. I had one physics professor in high school that would never use the word decelerate or deaccelerate. He always said negative acceleration. I don't know. I guess if you had an arbitrary graph where you were to label like north positive and south negative, then you could also use a negative acceleration in that sense, but who would do that? See, YouTube can't figure its stuff out. So now it's down to 5 seconds, that's why you don't take YouTube seriously. Because you never know what's going to hit and what's not going to hit. So, don't take YouTube seriously. I could say the most profound things on here, and it wouldn't matter because YouTube doesn't want to give it out. Here we go. Deceleration always refers to acceleration in the direction opposite to the direction of the velocity. Yeah. Deceleration always reduces speed. Okay. Negative acceleration, however, is the acceleration in the negative direction in a chosen coordinate system. Okay. So it's negative acceleration is deceleration if you take out the second part, because negative acceleration doesn't always mean that you're reducing speed. Okay. Cool. That seems like a very in the weeds type thing. Cool. Alright. So now we know. For today, anyway. Till that piece of knowledge goes away. Probably in a week. Or maybe I'll remember it because I did it on stream, so maybe I'll remember it. It was funny. I got maybe I can. Let's see, let me get it. It's kind of delicate. It's held together by a bunch of thin strings. Fortunately, I don't have anything to rest it on, but I'll show it real quick. I have to go over here. And then I have to change this. I think it's here. Yes, okay, cool. So I got this. It's one of those little physics toys you give to children. I made a video on it, but it didn't really come out the way I wanted it to. But it's still up. Of course, it's not going to work because my hand is blocking the other side. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, my little nephew sees this, and he always likes to play with it, but he plays with it in a way where you get an effect, but it's not the intended purpose. So what he'll do is he'll take two of these on one end in one hand, and then two on the other end in the other hand, and let them go. So the two smash on the one side and then two smash on the other. That's not really the purpose of the toy, but it's alright anyway. And then you tell him, you say, this is Newtonian mechanics, and he doesn't care. Doesn't know what it means. You can actually see better on the live stream than you can in the video I made. I think in the video I made, the GoPro just did some weird angling thing. It made it look a bit weird. I wonder if people would watch this stream if I just did this for 2.5 hours. Maybe they would. I don't know. It's kind of an annoying sound. You see how there's always a handhold right here, and then you move this hand off, and this hand replaces it. Then your next handhold, it's the couch off screen you can't see, and then there you go. There's always a handhold. Even when you're gonna fall, you don't have to fall quickly. There's always something that you can brace. So, let's see. Let's go back. I think it's scene 2. Is it? Yeah. It's nice that you can flip back and forth. Now 5 seconds. 1 hour, 10 minutes. So now I can eat now. I like this too if you just notice what happened. Well, actually, that's not a glitch. The views just ran their 48-hour course. Okay. Let's see. Um, I'm curious again. There's a field that I'm interested in that I never learned because I didn't go that far in physics. Only the first Gen Chem and Gen Chem 2, which is now like they made a algebra physics 1 and 2 for the medical schools, the prospective medical school students. But they didn't have that when I took it. It was just the straight calculus. I remember there was a girl who was asking the physics teacher during the first day of class or something when we were going over the syllabus why the medical school students had to take calculus-based physics because it wasn't useful to them. And he just said that putting calculus in physics gives you a greater understanding, which is true. But see, this is why people talk past each other. Because they're talking on different levels. They have different levels of interest. So neither one of them is wrong. But they're never going to come together because they have different levels of interest. Different levels of interest plays a key role in everything. I'll write that down. Think about it, right? It's got a different color. All these colors are so dark. That should be fine. Levels of interest. I think the field where you see that have the most impact is politics. So politics, I'll just say different level interest, DLI. Okay? So what happens here is if you have two people and two people are talking about something and one of the people is wrong, like factually wrong, and the other one is factually right, okay? The problem is that politics can't be taken in isolation. You can't just claim to know a fact and then run with that and think, oh, because I know this, then I can fill in all these other spaces. It doesn't work like that. In order to understand politics and actually be correct about things that are very complicated and many layers deep, you have to really care. And it's very obvious when someone who knows what they're talking about is talking with someone who has no idea what they're talking about. And it leads to hostility on both sides. But at least on one side, the hostility is born out of knowledge, and on the other side, it's born out of, I guess, not really embarrassment because they don't care, but I guess you're just perceived as like an enemy. And it all comes down to your level of interest, and it's quite sad because anyone could be knowledgeable enough to have a real opinion on anything, but some people are just not interested. And this, I think I wrote this. Not all opinions deserve to be expressed. If you don't know what you're talking about, then shut up. If you don't know what you're talking about, you should shut up. That should be taught in every school, and people should live by that. That would solve a lot of problems. If people could just acknowledge their weak points and just learn from people, instead of trying to voice an opinion that's just going to create hostilities. because that opinion is just a very uneducated thought, then just chill and don't say anything. We need to we need to prioritize learning. People don't do that anymore. Some cultures do, but a lot of cultures don't. Like, um, Asian, um, Asian culture does. And I'll tell you from my experience, white culture is hit or miss. And it's largely dependent on family background. I feel like if that wasn't a consideration and we just said everyone should prioritize learning in every circumstance, the world would be much better off. I think that's very uncontroversial. It's going to be interesting to see when I'm done with this how many times this stream this was recommended. Because I noticed the last stream was only recommended 200 times. And that's not really enough to generate views. You can get views that way, but they're going to be small in number. It brings you to I said this in another video. I'll say this here. I'll call it the YouTube chicken or egg. Um, I'll just say game. YouTube chicken or egg game, okay? So the way YouTube works, you have views and recommendations. Now, the way YouTube wants to work, they say, well, get more views and you'll get more recommendations, which will give you more views. Okay, that's one way to look at it. But the actual way to look at it is YouTube recommend my stuff more and it will get more views. Like, that's the way it actually works. The way YouTube thinks it works, it says, oh, this video got a view, let's recommend it more. Don't do that. How is someone supposed to know content exists if it's not recommended in the first place? I don't know. I said that in another video, but I'm saying that again here. YouTube I'll say this. YouTube has lost its amateurish amateurish appeal. YouTube was best when an amateurish video that was funny or educational could pop off. You can't do that anymore. You look at all the current short feeds. You look at all the current shorts, which are mega popular. And they're all hyper unrealistic. They're either like going to exotic locations or an extreme sports athlete skiing down an epic mountain. Like, when was the last time a regular person who wasn't exploding anything or doing anything outrageous had a viral short? And if you look at the videos are largely the same thing. Their production value is way up from past normal, but the content is no better. Like, the actual message is no better. Let's see. Current YouTube rewards production value over content. I think that's pretty uncontroversial. But that's what they're doing now. And it's really sad. Been almost an hour and a half. Let me see. Give me one moment. I need some food. I can't read German that well. Physics is very cool. Chemistry is very cool. I can't really think of another field that's as cool as those two. Biology is cool, but not as cool as chemistry or physics. And nothing in the soft sciences is as cool as the hard sciences. Sociology is kind of cool. Philosophy, I didn't really think philosophy was that cool, to be honest with you. I always thought that maybe it was because I feel like this is probably the same for everything. But if you have, say, philosophy 301 or something, call it ethics, which literally every single person who graduated from Marist had to take. The only way to do that is to make that course so general. I don't think a general philosophy course is particularly interesting. It might be somewhat useful if you know nothing and you don't think that deeply. But the only interesting philosophy course, or really any course, is one where you take what I call a selective narrow course. This is going to be your interesting ones. Even like, okay, so say you take ecology, right? It's like basics. Then you can have freshwater ecology, right? But even that course is still intro. It's going to be uninteresting. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just the nature of undergrad. But you never really got into any real interesting topic. I can't think of one time, other than maybe freshman year chemistry, where I thought molecular orbitals were cool. Where we got into one topic in anything that I thought, wow, that's some really specialized knowledge there. That's pretty interesting. I never remember feeling that. I did well despite having no inspiration. That's how you know that all the inspirational quotes and all of that, that's nice for 5 seconds. Let those inspirational quotes carry you through semester after semester of semester with no sleep. See how you feel at the end. If you still feel the same way, as you probably don't. It's the phrase, people are all talk. There are certain phrases that sum up very universal behaviors that have deep meanings. The wind has been very strong the last couple of days. I saw a graph Was it a graph? No, it was, I would say, a map. And it showed the precipitation amounts for all of the United States from December to February of this year, or I guess last year and this year. And there was actually more precipitation in this area, the Hudson Valley area, than there normally is. I don't know, I just remember cold weather the entire time. This is also something people don't understand. This is just a running theme. So you have global versus regional. So if you tell someone, you read an article that says, oh, globally, February was the hottest month on record, as is going to be the case for every month going forward, they're going to break a new record. And then somebody says, oh, well, I don't remember it being that hot. It's like, okay, well, your sample size is this small region. And when you think in relativistic terms, this small region is meaningless to the rest of the world. So again, when people's level of interest are different, when somebody has a regional level of interest and you have literally a global level of interest, you're never going to meet. Ask the people of Southeast Asia if they thought that their winter was cold. They'll tell you it wasn't. Alright. Maybe we can put something here. Maybe. We'll see. I'm going to say that this live stream is going to be recommended to less than 400 people. I think that's pretty fair. It's not fair, but it's given the current data, that's where it would fall. That's okay. There are a select few people who really care. And I guess that's all that matters, really. Let's see what we have. And it's always interesting to look back at some of this stuff and try to think about what I meant, because it's so sparsely written out. This is a good example. I made a video on this. It did pretty well, considering that it was one of my first videos and shouldn't have had any audience at all. But this is an example of my college note-taking style. Okay, so imagine this. You do have people who are note takers for people who need special accommodations. However, I never used any of them. I could have, I just didn't, I guess. It never like popped in my head that I should do that. It's because I did so well anyway. Because I was very driven and also on some level intelligent. So I never really needed it. However, think of a situation like this. So you have a professor and she is talking about something, lecturing in the class, pretty much like I am right now on stream. She is going to present her material at a speed that is suitable for normal students, students that function at high speed, because that is the speed of a private college if you go to a good one. Everyone's at a high level. Pretty much everyone's at a high level. So if you're at a slower processing speed, you're at a disadvantage, and that disadvantage can only be made up by your overintelligence or your maybe not overintelligence, maybe just intelligence in general. So you have to find ways to make it so that the speed isn't really a factor, meaning you get what you can get, and then the rest of it has to go into your memory. So I relied very heavily on my own creations, really, my own mental pictures, and also my memory. Because taking really detailed notes was not really a part of the options. I'll write that here. Not readable. It needs to be darker. Detailed notes were not a thing. Okay. Let's start a new sheet. Cool. One hour, 51 minutes. Doing things like this is important because it shows you one really important thing. We need to increase the size of that. Ability to make content. If you make enough specific content, people will eventually find it. This kind of streaming is let's say not that hard for me. Fits a skill set. Everyone is looking for their their how do I want to put this? Let's see. Their world in which they can play with their skills. It's super hard to find. Super hard to find that world. The population could literally be I'll write this in a different color. Population could literally be needs to be darker than that. Come on. population could be 5 people. The world is expansive and isolating at the same time. The world is expansive and isolating simultaneously. Wow, I can't believe that came out right. Cool. Okay. The world is expansive and isolating simultaneously. Yes. Yes, it is. I wonder at what point along the line YouTube decided they weren't going to recommend this stream. It would be funny if they were that transparent. They would get so much blowback. Data transparency equals blowback. I remember there was one time, I believe it was last February, I was in Idaho visiting a friend and I was on his computer doing some YouTube stuff. I was probably uploading a video. And I noticed that on my YouTube shorts for the first time, YouTube had their metric they have now, where it showed you the percentage of people who saw your recommendation and either chose to click on the short or essentially didn't click on it. And I always thought that was depressing to see, be like, oh, 53% of people decided to swipe away from my content. So yes, people cry for data transparency, they want more, and then when they get it, they're like, oh, maybe this wasn't necessarily the greatest idea. Because people have weak minds, which lead to weak convictions. And that's just the way it goes. It was pretty interesting. I talk a lot of what they would say behind the scenes or inside baseball. And I'll do that here again. I also noticed that I picked the same colors, the same color combo. I don't really like that. I noticed, so if you talk about subscriber count, so I've noticed that I'll pick up a subscriber, which is good. You want as many as you can get to bring your view to subscriber ratio as close to 0 as possible. Mine is currently at, as I do this every day, mine is currently at 404.2 views per subscriber. So, I'll pick up a subscriber, and then the next day, I'll lose a subscriber. And I guarantee you, with high confidence, that the subscriber, I'll just say, this needs to be darker. The subscriber loss are people who just subscribed. So they'll see a stream and be like, oh, that's a chill stream. Not much is going on there. I can follow that, hang out, chill out. Cool. I'm going to subscribe. And then that person may watch a video. Now, my videos are not chill. My videos are important. They talk about real topics. They're pretty heavy. You know, when people say a song is heavy or that's really emotional, my videos are heavy. They are important. They deal with real things. So, when people are hit with that, they say, oh, I didn't sign up for this. I'm out of here. Which is fine. It's totally cool. I don't really care one way or the other. I just think that stream versus video is very interesting. And I'm just going to write this out. Stream is chill. Videos are real and heavy. I like both. It's just that the videos are harder to produce overall. Editing is harder, and it's hard to have constant content for videos if you're going to follow this real heavy mindset. It's much easier to just produce a chill stream that eventually people will watch later. Or if you're lucky, will watch as you're doing it. Today is not one of those days. Although today, if we want to talk about the kind of illogical method behind all of it. So today is a low stream view day, but it is one of my most flow like streams. It's very maddening. Yeah. It's kind of interesting. Like, think of this. Okay. So, if you were to take a normal person, say someone who doesn't have a global perspective and is very affixed to their regional mindset, if you said to that person, I have a YouTube channel and its content has been recommended 632,000 times, they would think something like, wow, that's the regional response. However, if you take a global view, a realistic global view, so we'll just say global realistic view, this might be arguable, but this is what I believe. You can't do anything with 632,000 YouTube. There's going to be some layering here. Recommendations. And that's just the way it is. So again, there's a regional approach, and then there's a global approach. Again, it's called different layers of interest, different perspectives. It's 418. Let's see. Let's see if there is anything would be easy to eat real quick. Not necessarily. Okay. Okay. Maybe at 4:30. That would be a good stopping point. We'll see. um, let's see. Um, this is interesting, right? So I'm gonna look at this. I'm gonna look this up. South Korea. And population change. So let's do that. South Korea. Population okay. 51.7 million. It's flattened off just like North Korea. North Korea thankfully has a small population, relatively. Less people to live in an absolute nonsense situation. The gross domestic product of South Korea, 1.7 trillion. That's pretty good. This is what annoys me. People are crying so much about this birth rate like it's some tragedy. They understand that mostly all industrial countries are going to do this. Like, the United States is falling too. The United States is still above 2, I believe, is it? What? Where is the U.S. fertility rate? 1.64. What is it right now, though? Do you know? Let's do 2023. 1.784. 1.8, okay. 1.8, okay. So yes, the United States is higher, but it's gonna fall. And I believe this number's gonna rise. What is it in 2023? Oh, come on, get out of here with that. The way I look at this is, yeah, it's declining, but it looks like the decline is pretty stable. It's not sharply declining from year to year. So I think this is the trend of, this might be on the outskirts, like the high end or the low end of the effect on industrial countries. But this is going to happen. High standard of living is going to make for less children because it's going to require more money to raise each child. That's why you could argue, like I said before, that standard of living is very limited. It's not a comprehensive measurement of human happiness. I'll rate this here. I think there's a very strong argument for that. I'll rate this here. To stable decline. People are acting like population trends aren't dynamic. They can basically increase overnight. increase with a little effort. I would say it's actually harder to make it decrease. Population trends can increase with a little effort. Yeah. Yeah, I believe that. It's now 4:29. And I really hope people watch this stream later. It's really a good stream. They're not all this good, but I have a particular feeling about this one. Um, a theme in my life anyway. Oops. I'll just say, learn to be unhappy. Learn to be unhappy. Being happy should not be the default. Should not be the normal, I'll say that. Should not be the normal position. I think for other parts of the world, it's not the normal position. But I think for here, it largely is. But I don't believe, let's say, for example, Russia or Eastern Europe Oh. There's an already. I don't know. I'll look it up. I don't believe in those regions happiness is the default position. Shows you that happiness has a core economic underpinning. Um, 4:33. I'm gonna fill up this sheet and I'm gonna be done. This is funny. This is like speaking into the void. That's what YouTube. That's what YouTube is like. Till you get really big. And then you wish you were speaking into a void. It is possible, though, that from some point of view, the only thing that exists really, like, on a scale, like, there's more of nothing than there is of something. Like, how do I want to put this? If we look at a chemical level, there's more emptiness than you could possibly imagine. I think that's interesting. It's just that we're not wired to think on that level. Again, we exist on the classical scale. It's only in the last, I don't know, 100 years or so that we have opened other doors. Okay. I think that's gonna be it. Um, yeah, I'm not gonna mention that. Nope, not doing that. See, there are certain things you want to say, but then just don't say. Probably for the better. I'll just say, wish I was on a plane looking at the sky above the clouds. Like, that's perfect. On a plane, looking at the sky above the clouds. It's the best place to be. Best place to be. Alright. That's gonna be it. You get one last look. See, all of this is good. It's all good. Very good stream. Hopefully it's watched. Very good. Alright, save. Alright. Okay. Two hours, 33 minutes. That's a good time. That's a good length. I like that. Okay. Till next time.